Hello everyone. It's time for our Sunday school lesson this Sunday. We are in the book of Revelation and today we'll be in chapter 7 and part of chapter 8. I hope that you guys are sticking with it. Please don't feel like you're getting lost in the study. Just get what you can get, and again, the next time we do it, you'll just know more about it. I promise that it'll work that way. I see people are watching on FaceTime, and that pleases me to know that you, I see Sherry Brown, hey Sherry, that you're watching. And the main thing is that you're getting a Sunday school lesson in while we're quarantined. So I just want to review a minute about last week's lessons. We learned that Jesus and God had a scroll in his right hand, and Jesus takes the scroll and he opens it, and there's 7 seals on the scroll. I didn't bring my little picture of the scroll, but we realized that on the scroll it's written on the front and on the back, and as it's opened, different things happen. And under the first seal, there was a white horse that brings peace that was fake peace. Then there was a red horse. The red horse brought war, which proved that there wasn't peace. Again, I'm speaking as past, but that's when John wrote it. Revelation is past, present, and future. We know that. So white horse, red horse, black horse, pale horse. There's famine, there's death, there's war, and there's fake peace. Then the 5th seal, there was martyred souls. Those were people who were martyred for Christ, and they're under the throne, which is awesome. How the scripture tells us that they're under the altar, under the altar, because they were sacrificed for the Lord. And then the 6th seal was wrath. God had started his wrath, and I explained that like as a woman goes into labor, the labor pains start out slower and not as violent, and then at the end it's bad, and the baby comes, which is all good. But that's the way I like to describe tribulation. We're going to just start out with some pains, with some labor pains, with some things that are going on, but it's going to get worse and worse as it's going to happen. So now, and under the wrath seal, we learned that people that are left here on the earth, they're running, they're hiding. It says small people, great people, rich people, poor people, every kind of person you can imagine, they were running and hiding from the Lord as the earth cracked and different things happened. And my question was, why would they run from someone they don't believe in? But they're running from the Lord thinking that they could hide. And here's our picture of the 4 horsemen. You've seen this picture before in your lifetime, and that's what it means. And so just, recognize that and see how much smarter you are already. You've already learned that. So today we're going to go into chapter 7. Hopefully this won't be a long lesson. I see Morgan Lee Smith is watching. So chapter 7, he says, after these things, that's after the first 6 seals are read. We just did them. White horse, right? Red horse, black horse, pale horse, martyred souls, and some of the wrath. Labor pain wrath, starting out small. The wrath's going to get worse. Okay, so he says, after these things, after those 6 things were open, he says, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth. This is John. He sees 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth. Doesn't mean the earth is flat. It's talking about they're everywhere. They're holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, on the sea, or any tree. So now what we're doing, remember how I've explained we're on a trip and you're looking at different sections of different stacks of pictures on the trip. You're looking at history, you're looking at family, and you're looking at whatever else you want to look at. And that's all John can do, is he can only tell us certain things at certain times. He can't give us the whole picture at one time. So this is another stack, okay? We're going to look at another part of our trip. John's trying to tell us all that's going on, and we haven't opened the 7th seal yet. The 7th seal is always, or the 7th trumpet, the last one is always like a big deal. So that's why we haven't opened the 7th one yet. So we're pausing to look at this next stack of pictures. Hey, Katrina. So as we're looking at this second stack of pictures, or this next stack of pictures, John's explaining some stuff to us. Now, Scripture says 4 corners of the earth, and that's what I'm trying to do, is just try to explain verses to you guys, all right? And that's where we need to start to understand Revelation. We know there's nature's fours. There's north, south, east, and west. There's winter, spring, summer, and fall. There's oceans, lakes, rivers, and ponds. And there's air, fire, water, and earth. So we know that. And that's all John's saying is these angels are standing at the four corners of the earth. And then he says, I see another angel. So there's a fifth angel coming. Don't feel like you're lost. You're good. And he's coming from the east. That's where Jesus is going to come from. He has the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice. Remember, all these angels are loud voices. To the four angels to whom was granted to harm the earth and the sea. They're allowed to do that. And he says, this angel, do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees till we have sealed the servants of God on their forehead. So he's telling them to hold up. We haven't opened the seventh seal yet, but hold up. God's got to seal the servants on their forehead. Now, some scriptures say on their forehead or in their forehead. And we're going to talk about that in just 1 second. So he has a seal of the living God in his hand, and he's told not to do anything. Don't let any more pains come upon the earth until we seal God's people. And the reason they're going to be sealed is because they're going to be protected from the tribulation. Now, the seal of God on his servant's forehead symbolizes protection and ownership. So it says it was either on their head or in their head. You know, I kind of believe it's in, which means God, he doesn't have to seal you, with a mark to know who his children are. He knows they're sealed. We're sealed. And back in the day, history talks, and that's another thing. John can only explain what he knows. The kings would use their ring, their signet ring. It may be like my ring would have a big S on it if I was a queen. And I would dip it in the wax and I would seal the letter with my signet. And then if that seal was opened, I would know that someone had bothered my letter. So he's saying they're sealing. God's going to seal his people. It may be a physical mark, but my opinion, I don't know, would be that it's a spiritual mark because God knows who his people are again. And Satan copies this. Remember, I told you that Satan copies everything God does. Satan's going to copy with the seal of 666 on his people. But right now, this is where we're at. And I want to jump ahead. I don't normally do that, but just for a moment, in Revelation 14, same book, he says, I looked and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, with him 144,000 having his father's name written on their foreheads. So everybody wants to know what the seal is. Well, right here, Revelation 14:1 tells you it's his father's name. A lot of people get real freaked out about that. What's that seal that God seals to the 144,000? Go to verse 4, chapter 14. It says it's his father's name. Jesus has us, okay? Easy enough. So the seal is God's name. And here's my little picture. This is 144,000. Here's the seal. And this would be artist's description of what he would see. All right? So he says, and I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 of the tribes of the children of Israel. These were God's servants who are designated, sent out to do this job, having the mark of God on them. Don't make everything's a big deal in the Bible, but what I'm saying in your head, don't let it be a big deal where you're freaked out and you don't understand it. It's basically just saying this is the amount of Jews that God has set aside to be on the earth during tribulation. They are sealed with his protection. Nobody's going to hurt them. And they're going to tell people about Jesus. They're going to proclaim the gospel. And we're going to see what happens with that. But just for a side note, he says there's 144,000. Now, this is of the children of Israel. We're not going to go into this study, but just take a little side note. We're looking at another stack of pictures with me right now for a minute. The children of Israel. Now, Israel is a man, okay? That's a man's name. Not all Israel that we talk about in the Bible is Israel the man. But this is Israel the man. His name was Jacob. It was changed to Israel, okay? Mr. Israel had 12 sons, and they created 12 tribes, all right? Those of you who do homework, you'll have this homework exercise to do. Here's your 12 tribes. Can you imagine having 12 sons? I only had 2, but they were a lot. So 12 tribes of Israel, Mr. Israel, okay? So each of the 12 sons had a tribe. So they all had a tribe. And the 12,000 Jews from the 12 tribes. If you have 12,000 times 12,000, what does that equal? Do your math. 144,000. 12 tribes of Mr. Israel. Those are his kids. 12,000 from each tribe. So today there are millions of Jews in the world, but God said there will only be 144,000 Jews from the tribe of Mr. Israel who would be sealed to do his task of telling others about Christ during the tribulation. Then that's all it means. Don't swim out in the ocean and drown on this. Stay on the shore and enjoy it. That's all it means. You don't have to figure it out. 144,000 Jews will be true Christian believers during this time. Now in verses 5 through 8, it tells you of each tribe. 12,000 sealed from the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 sealed from the tribe of Levi, and on it goes. 12,000 from the tribe of Zebulun. That's my favorite. Of course, my Zeb isn't a Zebulun, he's just a Zeb, but it's still cool. So anyway, it goes on to teach us that. Then in Revelation 7, 9, and 10, I have to turn my page, sorry. John says, okay, you got it? Okay, we just reviewed, and all we've learned so far is that the earth is not flat, but the angels are holding the winds, they're holding anything from happening while God seals 144,000 of his people to be on the earth during tribulation so that others can come to know him. Now, a lot of people say, well, people are not going to get saved during tribulation. Well, they're wrong. The Bible teaches us different, so get that out of your head. He says, after these things, this is John, I looked and behold a great multitude, which no one could number. It's very fascinating because the numbers in Revelation are everywhere. But this, he says, I saw a great multitude no one can number. That's got to be a lot. Of all nations, all tribes, peoples, and tongues standing before the throne and before the Lamb clothed in white robes with palm branches in their hands and crying out with a loud voice, saying, salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and the Lamb. After these things, after the 144,000 proclaim the gospel, John sees a great multitude no one could number in heaven. But he says they're not just 144,000 that belongs to these brothers. They don't have the same DNA as just these brothers. You know, my sons have the same DNA. These dudes do too. So he's saying, I look in heaven and there's all nations, all tribes, all peoples, all tongues, not just Mr. Israel's bloodline. So here's another picture. People in heaven, and see all these tribes. I mean, that's a lot, y'all. If God used 12 disciples and 12 apostles, just imagine what 144,000 would be like. That's crazy. That's a whole lot. So he's saying that there's all tribes, all tongues, all peoples, all nations. And so it's a multitude of all different kinds of people. They're wearing white robes, they're holding palm branches. It's a sign of victory, and they're saying salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and the Lamb. These are people who were saved due to the gospel that the 144,000 told them about. How do I know that? Because it says, and one of the elders, now again, you got to remember, they're talking, they're thinking, they're singing, they're wearing white robes, they're holding palm branches. All of this is going on in heaven. All right? So then one of the elders, oh wait, I skipped something, sorry. It says, I don't know where I skipped it. Sorry, guys. I have so many notes here. Anyway, it says, then one of the elders answered, saying to me, John's talking, who are these arrayed in these white robes, and where did they come from? So the elders are up there, and all of a sudden there's all these people, and the elders asking John, who the heck are these people? Who are they? And they have on white robes. You know, this particular elder must have thought everybody was already there. And John said to him, sir, he called him sir, the elder, you know. He said, he said to me, these are the ones who came out of the great tribulation and washed their robes and made them white with the blood of the Lamb. They are talking, they are asking, they're thinking, they're interacting. So John says, he addresses the elder as sir, and he says, these are the ones. So there's your proof, y'all. A lot of the older folks or different people will tell you that no one will be saved during the tribulation. He said these are the ones who came out of the great tribulation. All right? So these are the people that John saw come out. The great, every tribes, nations, tongues, they were all different and they all came out. But while they're praising God, do you think they don't understand each other? Of course they do. You could be beside someone who speaks a different language in heaven, but you're all going to be praising and you're going to know it. Obviously, these people did not go up in the rapture. If the rapture has already taken place with the church, they were not saved at that time. They were saved due to the service of the 144,000 who were proclaiming the gospel to them at that time. That's why we have to be careful what we say about people or how we feel about people. We have to be really careful about that because we don't know who are God. Everybody's God's people, but we don't. There's sometimes people are really bad people, and then their lives are radically changed, and we've damaged them as Christians. We've damaged them. So you can't be a Christian and be mean to somebody, even if it's someone in politics or things like that. I mean, the jokes and all are funny. Don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean when you really come after a person and, you say you want them dead or you want something to happen to them or something like that, yet you call yourselves a Christian. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You check your own salvation if you do that. You have to be careful because you don't know who God has called. You don't know who you're going to be standing beside in heaven worshiping and praising the Lord. You just don't know. So, anyway, I just think I went off on a little opinion right there. So these folks are now in heaven. Sorry. They died probably more than likely they were martyred. Or some of the atmospheric things that have happened on the earth so far killed them. But nevertheless, they were in heaven. So they'll be protected from the Antichrist, the white horse, the red horse, the black horse. They'll be protected from all that. And because they're in heaven, or they may have died as a result of that. Who knows? Whichever way, they've ended up in heaven through the Great Tribulation. So he says, therefore, they are before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple. That's what these people are doing. And he who sits on the throne will dwell among them. He, meaning God, who sits on the throne will dwell among them. They shall neither hunger, remember the famine horse, hunger, nor thirst anymore. That's the famine. The sun shall not strike them, nor any heat. Remember the atmospheric things. The third seal was the horse. That's the black horse. Hungry, famine. And then the sun turned black and the moon turned red. The things that would burn people during that time. He's saying just the opposite. They're not going to be hungry anymore. They're not going to be thirsty anymore. They're not going to be sunburned anymore. They're not going to have a heat stroke. And the Lamb will shepherd them. He will wipe away every tear. These people during tribulation, they're going to be crying. They're going to be suffering. They're going to have problems. And God's telling them now, therefore they're going to sit up here with me. And he who sits on the throne, they won't hunger anymore. They won't thirst. It matches, y'all. Everything matches up to what it's saying. The sun won't strike them anymore. There won't be any more heat for them. It all matches just like a puzzle. And then he says, the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne will shepherd them and lead them to living fountains of water. And God will wipe away every tear from their eye. Living fountains of water. During tribulation, even water, we'll learn probably next week or maybe this afternoon when I do the second lesson, we're going to learn about some water issues. But he says he's going to lead them to living water and he's going to shepherd them. How much more could they want? And he says, living fountains of water. And we've talked about this before. One fountain of water, if you stand under it, it's so loud you can't even speak to the person next to you. And he says there's going to be lots of fountains of water. And when you're thirsty, any old water will do. It doesn't matter if it's dirty water or whatever. If you're a farmer and you've worked out in the field, you drink out of the hose, whatever you got to do, you're going to get water. But he says this is going to be living fountains of water. I can imagine it would be the best water in the world. It'll be cold and it'll be so pure. But these people who had been through the Great Tribulation are part of it. After they had been through all of what they had been through, God says, I'm going to keep you from being hungry. I'm going to keep you from being thirsty. I'm going to shepherd you. I'm going to keep your skin from being sunburned. We don't even think about that, how the atmospheric changes are going to be for the people left in tribulation. Their bodies are just going to be, they're going to hurt. It's going to be bad. Living waters. These waters will give life because God said they're living waters. Some of these people may have been martyred, but all of them have endured a lot of pain at this time, and they must have cried day and night. Just cried because of what they were going through. And God says, here's another, it fits perfect moment. God says, I'm going to wipe away every tear. During tribulation, there's a lot of tears. And he says, I'm going to wipe away. But you know what? He said, there will be multitudes, so many people that I cannot count. And the elder's like, who are all these people? And they're told they're the ones that came out of the great tribulation. That's such good news. That is so good. He wipes away every tear. And when he wipes them away, they're going to be gone forever. Okay? So, nope, we still haven't opened the seventh seal yet. We're working up to it. We just looked at a whole nother stack of pictures on this trip. So don't get lost. You're doing good. And I'm going to be back this afternoon with the second lesson that won't post until tomorrow or Tuesday. I don't know. Somebody else does that for me. So we're going to work on the seventh seal. I think we'll open it this afternoon. So stay with me. And we're only in chapter 7. All the lessons are under Bronson Road Live. If you're on Facebook, go to the little magnifying glass. I was going to say microphone. And look at Bronson Road Live, and you'll get all the lessons. Or go to Bronson Road Church on your website, or go to Sherry's Sunday School Lessons on YouTube, and you'll get all of them. Just go in date order. Maybe I should put chapter order on there. I'm not sure, but if you go in date order, you'll get all of them. Okay, guys, have a good Sunday afternoon, and remember to praise the Lord and study His Word. Remember what He said in chapter 1. If we study this Word, this book, particularly this book, the book of Revelation, we will be blessed. It's the only book in the Bible that gives us this promise. So don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Spend the time. You got time right now, a little more time than normal. So here we go. You don't have to listen to me, but listen to something or read something and get into God's Word. Love you guys. Have a good day.